Hello everyone, I am Giancarlo Guerrero, and it is my great honor to be the next music director of the Sarasota Orchestra. I was born in Nicaragua, but grew up in Costa Rica, and although I am not from a musical family, my parents loved music. They wanted to keep me busy and hopefully out of trouble, so like many kids, they signed me up for the symphony in Costa Rica. And that's where I started my love and my passion for this wonderful art form. And eventually, this hobby became a full-blown passion. So I went to school at the university at Baylor in Waco, Texas, as a percussion major, in the back of the orchestra with two sticks, making fun of conductors. I spoke very little English, but this university gave me a full scholarship, which was an absolute blessing and an opportunity to continue my musical career outside of my own country. One of the many classes you take as a music major is conducting. And I took the class, and honestly, I wasn't very thrilled about it. I was very happy in the back of the orchestra. And my teacher came to me and said, you know what, you have a natural talent for conducting, maybe because you have good rhythm and you're used to having a stick in your hand, so you should pursue it. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I did follow his advice, and I'm glad I did, because eventually conducting became an even bigger passion in my musical life. Starting a conducting career can be quite challenging because the instrument of a conductor is an ensemble. It's, as I like to call this dragon, with 50 or 100 heads or 20 heads. And you don't get to practice with it early on, because in some cases they will tell you you need experience to become a conductor, but how do you become a conductor without an ensemble? So any opportunity that I had to get in front of actual people is one that I cherished. Being in Costa Rica, I had just returned to Costa Rica from the United States after graduating at Northwestern with my master's in conducting. And I went back, I met my wife, and we were gonna stay in Costa Rica, but Costa Rica is a very small country, one professional orchestra at the time. So I knew that maybe my conducting career was not gonna go very far. But then Jose Antonio Abreu, the founder of the very famous El Sistema from Venezuela, had seen me conducting a master class, so he called me out of the blue. I had been married for maybe a month, and he said, the orchestra in San Cristobal has no conductor. Do you want it? And he put me on the spot, and I immediately said, of course, my own orchestra. So I asked my wife, and I feel very fortunate that she wanted for me to pursue my conducting dream. So she said, you know, I'm a preschool teacher. There's kids everywhere. So we packed our bags. Her only condition was Bruno is coming, and it was her Cocker Spaniel. And a month after we were married, we moved to Venezuela, and I had my first orchestra. And here come those podium hours. From there, I auditioned for the Minnesota Orchestra associate conductor position. I sent a video, and then they invited me to come to Minneapolis. I auditioned, I got the job. And once again, we packed everything. Now a different country, different language, different weather. And once again, she said, no, we're moving to that next step. And I was with this fantastic orchestra in Minnesota for 5 glorious seasons. After that came the Eugene Symphony. That was being the first music directorship in the United States. Then came Nashville. I've been there almost now 17 years. The Nashville Symphony has been a very big part of not only my professional career, but my personal life as well. I've spent 16 seasons with that orchestra, and my kids grew up in Nashville. My debut with the orchestra was rather unusual because the previous music director, Kenneth Kemmerhorn, had been there for 22 years and was pretty much in charge of a big part of the season, so they didn't bring guest conductors very often. And tragically, the week that I arrived to guest conduct the orchestra, Maestro Kemmerhorn passed away. He had been ill for some time, but kind of took a turn for the worse, so he was very unexpected. So all of a sudden, my concert became a memorial service to the maestro. And as you can imagine, not only the community, but the musicians were actually in shock. And that first condition, I think, kind of connected us more than usually, just because of the tragedy that had just taken place. And because at the end of they were at the end of the season, the next season was already announced with Maestro Skemmerhorn supposed to conduct many of those concerts. And my week went well enough that the orchestra asked me if I was available for any of the concerts the next season. And I said, sure. So I kept coming back as a guest conductor, and I guess as a candidate, as many others were there. And I conducted the orchestra quite often, not only in the old hall, but once they moved into the new, fantastic, beautiful concert hall that they now have. And I was very lucky that the timing was just absolutely perfect. And having this incredible new space for the orchestra to make music in is what has allowed it to continue growing even more than they had before. The season became longer. We could make recordings, live recordings actually. That's how good the hall is. And reaching out more audiences, more concerts. And that's where all the Grammys came from. So musically and artistically, this has been not only a home, but it has been a place that for me has a great degree of pride of what we have been able to achieve, of making this orchestra a vital part of the Nashville experience. I came to guest conduct the Sarasota Orchestra last January, and it was a guest conducting opportunity. I had heard many very positive things about the orchestra and the institution from colleagues. It's a very small world in the music, from soloists and some conductors. And I say, oh, you're going to love it there. It's a good orchestra and, very well-run organization, and it's a beautiful part of the world. So you're going to have a great time. So my wife and I came to Sarasota and as a guest conductor, and I remember giving the downbeat of the Mahler Symphony, which begins very magically only with the strings playing a harmonic. It's one of the most beautiful openings of a symphony. And I remember very vividly when I first heard that sound came out, that it was just so magical. And then the woodwind started coming in and the brass, and then little by little I started realizing, wow, it's not only a good orchestra, it's even better than I expected. This was only the first rehearsal. We're just, 10, 15 minutes into the rehearsal, and the magic was happening. They were playing so incredibly well. They were so prepared with every part that it sounded, like a concert already. And as a conductor, I just kept stepping back the whole time, just enjoying the moment. It's like, wow, this is pretty remarkable. The thing that I would say that impressed me the most, along with the musicians' virtuosity, was the vision that they had as an institution. It was a shared vision. And pardon the pun, that's music to my ears. As a conductor, you want to be able to go to a place that not only to play concerts, but also to know that you're having a positive impact on your community, because in the end, that is what you do. You are there to enrich the lives of the people that live there through music. At the end of the week, I remember being on the plane with my wife, and I looked at her. I said, listen, if there was the possibility that they came to me with an offer to become a music director, I would definitely consider it, because after what I saw in those few days that I was there, both musically and institutionally, it would be, for a music director, having that great support was irresistible. So I am now very proud and incredibly excited that we have reached that point, and they have asked me to become the next music director of the Sarasota Orchestra. So this journey for me, every single place has prepared me for the next step. I'm reaching that point of becoming the more experienced maestro after not only having many different positions as music director, but guest conducting all over the world. My family, both of our daughters and my wife Shirley, we've had to come up with ways to complement the fact that, yes, a big part of my life is being on the road. And especially when my kids were little and going to school, we never pulled them out. We always found ways of making that work, having that wonderful support from my wife Shirley and my daughter Virginia and my daughter Claudia. I am absolutely certain that without that incredible support and love that they have given me from the very early parts of my career, I would not be where I am right now.